Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, we're going to dive right into this today because, well, we're currently watching a massive legal showdown unfold over literally the most famous house in America. Right now, there is an active construction site sitting right next to the White House residence, and it's just become the center of this completely unprecedented clash between the executive branch and the federal courts. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're talking about here, let's look at this staggering figure. $400 million. That represents the estimated cost of a massive White House ballroom project, and a federal appeals court has just abruptly blocked it. We aren't just talking about, a minor renovation here. This is a completely transformational construction project right on the White House grounds. And as of today, the judicial system has completely slammed the brakes on the whole thing. So the court has officially ordered the president to halt construction on the exact site where the East Wing previously stood. Now, its sudden demolition last year actually shocked a lot of people, and it immediately sparked a lawsuit aimed at stopping the construction of this massive new ballroom. What's absolutely fascinating here is just how much of a personal priority this project has become for President Trump. Reports actually note that his approach really reflects his background as a property developer. Just 3 months ago, he was proudly showing off the construction site. This ballroom has kind of become an obsession for him. He literally carries pictures of how he wants the finished building to look while he's flying on Air Force One. But today, the court stepped in and said no, he simply doesn't have the authority to dramatically alter a historic landmark all on his own. Moving into Section 1, the court's construction block, a legal halt. So, how exactly did we get to this point, where a federal court is actually dictating construction at the president's residence? There's a totally fascinating balance of power at play here. On one side, you've got the court's ruling. The judges stated very clearly that to make massive changes to a historic landmark like the White House, well, the project fundamentally requires approval from Congress. But on the flip side, you have the administration's firm stance. They're arguing that this isn't just some aesthetic upgrade. They insist that the Secret Service and the military are demanding this new facility purely as a matter of critical national security. To really grasp how the administration views this roadblock, let's look at the president's exact words. He was super quick to respond, taking to Truth Social to complain that the military and Secret Service view this as a horrendous, politically motivated, and unlawful ruling. He posted that the court's decision, quote, severely jeopardizes the lives and welfare of the people who work and will be working at the White House, including all future presidents of the United States and their families, end quote. So the crucial takeaway here is that the administration is framing this entirely as a matter of presidential safety. Let's jump to Section 2, Demolition and Security Demands, Building a Fortress. Let's explore the timeline here and see how this active construction site actually came to be. Okay, so last year, we saw the sudden and highly controversial demolition of the historic East Wing. Then, in April, a really pivotal event occurred. A gunman caused the president to be abruptly evacuated from the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, the administration argues that this frightening incident perfectly demonstrated the absolute necessity of having a secure, large-capacity venue right there on the White House grounds, rather than having to rely on outside venues for major gatherings. And that brings us right to today, where the courts have stepped in and halted the resulting ballroom construction. To really understand the administration's side of the argument, we got to look at the specific features of the building itself. These are the state-of-the-art security features that the military and Secret Service are actively demanding for this new venue. They aren't just building a room for parties, right? They're building a totally drone-proof structure wrapped in bulletproof glass. The president argues that they desperately need a large venue that provides a safe place to hold more people, a place where security can be managed far better than at some off-site location. But check this out. There is a fascinating legal caveat to this whole situation. While the massive ballroom above ground is officially blocked, the court ruling explicitly allows the ongoing construction of a state-of-the-art military bunker located directly underneath the ballroom to continue. So if you look at the White House today, you're actually still going to see building work going on and cranes operating. Why? Because that subterranean security bunker is legally cleared to proceed even while the ballroom right on top of it is completely frozen. All right, moving into Section 3, the project funding mystery, following the money. Because as it turns out, the legal battle is really just one piece of this $400 million puzzle. So who is actually paying for this project? This question reveals a pretty significant mystery going on behind the scenes of the construction site. When you have a price tag of nearly $500 million for a building that doesn't have congressional approval, well, the money has to come from somewhere, right? So here is what we know, and maybe more importantly, what we don't know. We do know that President Trump has raised hundreds of millions of dollars entirely from private donors to fund this massive undertaking. But the administration will not disclose the exact amounts these individuals have actually given. On top of that, the identities of these high-level donors remain completely undisclosed. And, of course, that leaves the absolute biggest question completely unanswered. What, if anything, might have been promised to these anonymous donors in return for funding a massive venue right on the grounds of the White House? And that brings us to Section 4, the Supreme Court clock, a 2-week window. So what exactly happens next for this completely frozen construction zone? Well, the clock is officially ticking. The president has been given just a 2-week window where he can essentially carry on while he immediately appeals this decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. He's really hoping the highest court will overrule the appeals court and declare that he does, in fact, have the authority to finish the construction. But if that Supreme Court appeals fails, he's left with step 2. He'd literally have to go hat in hand to Congress and ask them to hold a vote giving him the formal authority to finish the ballroom. And as analysts are quick to point out, it is far from certain that he would actually be able to win that vote. And make no mistake, the pressure to deliver on this project is intensely high for the administration right now. Securing a win here is seen as absolutely vital, especially when you consider the recent context of their other major capital projects. The administration is actually still dealing with the fallout from the refurbishment of Washington's reflecting pool, which critics have widely described as a deeply embarrassing flop. Having another massive, highly visible construction project turn into a public failure, and this time, literally right on the White House lawn, is a scenario the president is fighting extremely hard to avoid. So, as this legal battle over the most famous house in America ticks down over these critical next 2 weeks, we're really left with a fundamental question. When a president demands a fortress for their own safety, but the courts demand congressional oversight to alter a historic monument, who ultimately controls the balance of power? Does the commander-in-chief have the absolute final say over the grounds they live on? Or does the history of the building belong to the representatives of the people? It's a genuinely fascinating constitutional clash, and we're definitely going to see how it resolves in the coming days. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on those cranes over the White House.